What we need, subsidy to smallholder farmers. In terms of, one, herbicides. For this year, there has been rain and rain and rain. And when you clear your land, by the time you come 2 weeks' time, it's all bush. So we need subsidy for herbicides. We need subsidy for seedlings. We are talking about NIFO, and we are talking about Okomu. If you have seen the seedling of Okomu, it's 1,000 naira per seedling. And it starts producing after 2 years. That of my friend NIFO is for 4 years, 5 years. Okay? So we need subsidy for seedlings. Then we need seedling, what do you call it, for fertilizers. Doctor, the last time, gentlemen, let's listen to me. The last time we ever had subsidy was during the time of Dr. Adeshino. Adeshino provided those seedlings, Adeshino provided those fertilizers. And since that time, we have not had any support from federal government. So if Central Bank can please liaise with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture to find out the roadmap drawn by Adeshino while he was here, please do that. We also, there are, last one, yes, there are also what we call chisel and harvesting tools. Please, we need subsidy for them. Don't talk about loans to us. Because the last time I took loan from the First Bank, I sold a choice property to pay it back. And if you want to give us loan, it should be for 7-year moratorium. So don't talk about loans to us. Talk about subsidy for smallholder farmers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I will take a lady, and that will be it before we revert back to Central Bank.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm a smallholder farmer, and I think, like what he said, we need subsidy, grants, and aid, not loan. Then there is a major thing in my heart I want to talk about that I want us to look into. The issue of the herbicides and the things we use in the farm is like it gets into the final product. And agricultural products, they are not, killing people as they are taking it, fertilizers and the rest. Is there no way of to do a research so that organic fertilizers or things can be used in the farm? Because there's a way that these things find their way to the products, and cancer is now becoming like malaria. So fertilizers, pest, all those other things that we use, and herbicide and the rest, it finds its way to the product and it's killing people. We are producing and killing people. So I think we should have a research, because even my next door neighbor died of cancer, which I thought I would never see in my life. It was a terrible thing. So I think we should look into it, because cancer is now becoming like malaria.
Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. I am Michael Aburime. I represent Oga and my farms. Now, we talk about issues of big stakeholders, big players in this game and the small players. I think the man from Sterling Bank made a point. The point he made is that if these big players want to go along with the small players, they should establish farm tanks and add maybe a cluster mill. With that, I think the problem can be solved, because when the smallholder produces his FFB and the mill, he goes away with his kernel and his fibers. Then the big player goes away with the workout. Then two, somebody said that the NIFO seedlings was planted and they were not able to produce until after 4 years. But mine started fruiting at the 18 months after transplanting. And till today, they are still fruiting. In fact, I planted 96. Up to today, they are still producing.
Which material is that?
Yeah, from NIFO.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Our major role in this whole intervention will be in the area of input supply, majorly. And this will be in the area of planting materials. Our planting materials are good. I'm confirming it. I don't need to talk too much. Farmers will bear us witness. You come to NIFO, we have fields where we take you to see what our materials are producing. In fact, the materials we produce now, within 2.5 years, they start fruiting, and fruiting very well, with very good fruit setting. It's not a matter of talking. If you come to NIFO, we take you around our new fields to see what we have. We have processing facility, processing equipment for small holders, all right, generally. And this is categorized into small, medium, and large, from about 2.5 tons per hour meal to about 2 tons maximally. Apart from that, we can provide technical support. And we are very good when it comes to capacity building too. We can come up in that area. And we will have loved to, we want to use this opportunity to request for intervention in the area of support for research in our institution. And then, and generally, if that is done, can actually help in the sustainability of the intervention generally.
So at the central bank, what we have done is the realization that if we are going to meet our future seedling requirements and optimize the potentials, the best way to do it is to do it internally. And the management realizes that the NIFO should be given all the necessary support for them to be able to meet the seedling requirements of Nigeria. This is the long-term sustainable arrangement for our country. So we've tried to liaise with Oil Palm Growers Association of Nigeria. They have come and, some of them have very good testimonies. And what I think should be done by this forum is to probably conduct a research among those who have been able to use NIFO seedlings, maybe for a particular period of time, so I'll have a documented information as to how they are performing. Having said that, we had discussed individually, privately with the major oil companies that are here today, and have been able to sell to them the need for us to build the local capacity in terms of research and development for NIFO. And told them that, well, they import today. When you import, the seedling cost is high. Why don't we build local capacity wherever there are gaps now as they relate to NIFO, address that gap to be able to meet the seedling standards of other countries. And as we speak, we are liaising with them, we are discussing with them. They have realized that, and only that we may not have time now, but we wanted to have an opportunity of meeting with them so that NIFO will be able to table what their requirements are, what their needs are, and they are ready to provide that support as part of their corporate social responsibility. So in this case, their corporate social responsibility could be divided into two, your community and the nation at large. So if, for instance, whatever you are spending now, you might decide to leave a certain part of that for a national objective of developing NIFO. So we believe that the issues around could be addressed, and eventually Nigeria will be better for it. So there are many questions, so you won't even know where you are going to start from in a real sense. But my director is here, and he will take most of the very serious, critical questions while I take the light ones. So the issue of moratorium is, as it is today, 4 years. And then...
How many years?
4, before you start repaying, given the fact that most of the fruit, the palm trees may not have started maturing until that time. So we believe that that is good enough. The banks have attested to the fact that some of the windows we are giving is because of the development orientation of the Central Bank of Nigeria. If not, if you get to the banks, they are not going to give you some of the windows that we are given with respect to lending. In terms of limits of loan, in terms of farm size, we don't define that to anybody. It's an individual, private, personal decision. So whether you are a large-scale farmer, a medium-scale farmer, or a small-scale borrower, it depends on how much land you have. And you package your loan. You can come as an individual. You can come as the groups or clusters.
whichever the case may be, you approach your bank and then make your proposition. Your bank will normally do their due diligence, after which they forward the application for us for approval. Intercropping. I think this is also a decision of the farmers themselves, but we were actually thinking that intercropping is good. But when the oil majors came to us, they said it's not good. It's not going to give you a long-term good result. So at any rate, we don't normally force people. So people will need to assess the economy of that arrangement, whether I have intercropping or whether I don't have intercropping. That's the decision that people will have to make. But you need to have a holistic picture of where that leads you, whether you are planting oil palm alone or you are going to intercrop. Economic, the cost benefit will have to be taken into consideration in taking that decision. Relationship between estate owners and outgrowers. And the issue of people wanting to have a meal. Again, we don't want to, even though we are providing some sort of window for support, still people have to still take their decision. Yes, under the anchor grower program which we have with the prime anchor, the prime anchor is supposed to play a major role identifying the farmers. Of course, some of them say they already have the outgrowers. They are already adopting the outgrowers, so it's not that it's something too new. So they will have to identify the farmers, map out their farms, and stand in for those farmers. They are going to provide some level of technical assistance, making sure that appropriate seedlings are planted, better agronomic practices are adopted, so that at the end of the day, the farmers will have the better yield. Aside from that, in our relationship with the Oil Palm Growers Association of Nigeria, they had started grouping their people together in clusters. And we said what is important is that you not only have clusters, processing is very, very important. And they said, well, some of their members have mills. So we said, okay, that is fine. What do you need to modernize those local mills, those modular mills, in such a way that they can produce special oil, special palm oil that's competitive with the likes of the big companies. And that is what they are trying to do. So they've clustered some people in various states, and about 7 states of the Federation. And each of them, like they said, have like an off-taker, so to say, a miller that they will customize and modernize. And then all the other people around will be selling their fresh fruit bunches to that particular mill, which in this case will be the leader of the cluster. Smallholder policy. I think that is very, very good. I would say not only even smallholder policy. Even what we are doing now, actually, our eyes are opened as to the need for us to have a strategy for the oil palm subsector that is probably privately driven through an input of all of us who are here. Come up with a blueprint that spells where you are going, like we have the case for Edo State. We should have a national program, and then that will help us to identify the stakeholders involved and what roles each of them will be expected to play. If you talk about NIFO, what will be their roles? If we talk about government, what will be their role? The central bank will be our roles. And how do we network in order to perform our roles? So that is very, very important. In terms of smallholders, what we are seriously trying to promote is and pleading with the major oil companies to see how to help us to create social harmony in the places where you operate by helping to enable those in those communities to grow their 1 hectare, 2 hectares, 3 hectares, and then you offtake from them. Issues related to payment were mentioned, that if you are giving them only 40%, is that enough? Apart from the 40% of the total value that is paid to the bank in terms of fresh fruit bunches, the farmer is also entitled, maybe we'll ask PZ Wima to talk about how they operate their own. If you are working on the farm, you are being paid. You pay yourself. The bank will pay you. So if you are contributing labor, you will be paid within the period you are undertaking your cultivation from the loan that has been approved to you. So in so doing, the farmer or the outgrower is getting some income on a continuous basis pending the time that the crops start fruiting. Yes, you mentioned the issue of graduating what percentage will be paid on the basis of yield expectations. We will take that and see how it plays out. That if you are having so small amount of yield and it's going to grow over time, maybe we'll see how that might play out in terms of what will be expected to be contributed by the farmer towards loan repayment. I think the director told me to answer 5 questions. I think maybe I'll give you the. I should continue. Okay. All right. There may be some I may not remember. Okay. Educating smallholders. This is very, very crucial. And we thank God for the NGOs, or our international NGOs. Training is important. And as part of our program for the outgrowers, training, plantation management is part of it. And this will be handled by the prime anchors because they have the experience. That means they are going to try to mentor them. They are going to try to see how they comply with agronomic and cultural practices. So that is very, very important. We may probably look for a way of structuring it. Who delivers this training? For instance, can NIFO do that? Or do the prime anchors have the capacity and are they willing to be able to deliver for their outgrowers? But I know training is very, very crucial and very, very important to help them to manage their farms very well and get the best yield. So as part of what to take from here is that whatever we are doing, wherever we are sending funding, particularly for smallholder farmers, either using their Apex Association, the issue of continuous training and group mobilization and dynamism will have to be entrenched in that. That might come in terms of our collaboration to central bank, the bank that's giving out the money, and then the Apex Association.
Plantation operators in the state?
Yes, Isaac, my name is Felix Mwabuko, Presco. The policy stipulates that there is a 25% reforestation policy attached to land allocation in Edo State now. Question is Edo State government now very clear as to how that reforestation policy would work? Is it planting trees, 25% of the land that you have shown, or contribution of funds to a fund pocket, or what? We need to be clear as to how that policy is going to work.
Okay, that sounds clear. That sounds clear. Yes?
The 120,000 hectares, is it plantable area or area which includes forest which have to be kept aside? Does it include the roads? Because these are all key questions for a plantation company.
Okay, so in essence, if within your 5,000 hectares allotted land, if you come across high conservation values, totaling, for instance, about 500 hectares, how would that be discounted? Would it be across the board, or would be netted off the allocation to estates or to the small holders? Okay?
Thank you very much. On this same issue, how does it affect the reforestation policy? If, for instance, I get 5,000 hectares of land, and does that mean I have to plant 4,000 hectares of oil palm, and then what do I do with the balance 1,000? Do I leave it, or do I have I don't understand.
A comment, a contribution to the program that was earlier presented, and that is to add that the program probably will be more effective if the participating smallholders are constituted into cooperatives to own parcels of land within the nucleus estate. Thank you.
My question, though, is someone wants to participate. Who do you call? How do you get into this program? And also, is it open to any investor? Okay? Because sometimes we come to things like this, we hear it, it sounds good, but when you live here, it's very hard to connect to that thing. So, who do you call if you are interested in this program? And is there a limitation to participation, or is it open to everyone? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So,
from the 12,000 hectares,
where did you get 12,000 hectares? So?
120,000 hectares.
Okay. Continue.
About 30% is allocated to the smallholders. With this Edo State program, will the smallholders be limited to only planting and not processing? Will they be limited to just plant and sell your FFB? Because I'm not seeing that. That is one. Two, the C of O. I can see some banners in Edo State that you can obtain your C of O. The governor even mentioned it for 50,000. As a smallholder, if I'm allocated 5 hectares, no, just 5 hectares, because I'm a smallholder. 5 hectares, and I obtain my C of O. Is there a limitation that the Edo State government will give me that you cannot process?
We all know that agriculture is a wasteful user of a lot of resources, land, water, etc. Two, particularly referring to oil palm, we know that the oil palm is referred to in some countries as an evil crop because of land issues. Back home in Nigeria, we are aware of the contentious issues regarding land for our brothers, Okomu. Mr. Governor, sir, represented by Joe Cody. What are your solutions to the recurrent problems over ownership and control of land that affect oil palm production?
Okay, ask one more.
Where can potential farmers get land in Edo for oil palm cultivation for this oil palm program? What is the time required?
That's the third one, no? Okay, last.
What is the time required?
Final.
From time of application and final allocation of land for oil palm cultivation.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just have one question for Prince Okoje. And my question is this. You talked about regeneration of some of the forests. How are we going to get the seedlings for these forest trees? Are you going to provide the seedlings to the farmers?
Thank you. That's a good one.
Good one.
I think the area I'm looking at is on inclusion of the smallholder farmers in this scheme. Because we know very well that from all the talk that have gone around that these guys will need support, maybe from seedling to even harvesting and all that. Then the land allocation has a ratio of 4:1. I think the government has to be very clear on that, how that reforestation will take place, because I don't think the smallholder farmer can crop and at the same time reforest. So they should be clear on that, so that is it that the established farmer, the estates, they will reforest the one they will take, while the smallholder farmers will rely on the government for reforestation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much and for landing well. I will now pass on the mic to Prince Joe Okoji.
Let me first of all thank everybody for taking the time to come out. I know there are a lot of places you'd rather be today, but for the respect you have for the Edo State, the CBN, and Profom, you decide to be here with us. I'll do my best to answer some of the questions that were asked here this afternoon. Unfortunately, I couldn't go through all the slides because I needed to rush through the slides because the governor, the CBN governor needed to catch a flight. Otherwise, some of these questions would have been answered in the course of the presentation. But however, I'll do my best to answer these questions as much as I can. The first question is 5,000 hectares is grossly inadequate for estate, oil palm estate developer. Yes, we understand that oil palm estate developer needs a lot more than 5,000 hectares to be productive. I'm not sure if in my presentation I mentioned that when we allocate you 5,000 hectares in the first instance, we would have to go through a production plan that we, the state, and the oil palm estate developer would agree on. And if we hit notes and start to produce as scheduled, then you have the opportunity to get another 5,000 hectares. The reason we set the program up in such a manner is just so that we don't go through what we went through in the past, where we allocated about 125,000 hectares. Until today, none of them have done anything with the land. So we don't want to encourage a land grabber situation where people would just come and acquire hectares and hectares of land and don't do anything with it. We have this land. The reason we went to CBN is because we understand that if you have land without money, you have nothing. And if you have money without land, you have nothing. So for our program to be implementable, we needed to make sure that we have land and we also have access to money. That was why before we decided to launch, we had several meetings with the CBN, and we had reached the point where we have agreed that this is something that they are interested in, and this is something that they can fund. So after we have reached that understanding, we decided to get you together to launch our program. So the gentleman that asked that question, have I answered your question? Okay. So, of the second question is, of the 120,000 hectares, how much of it has been allocated? Not 1 hectare has been allocated. We have not given anybody 1 hectare of the 120,000 hectares. But a lot of people have expressed their interest. And if you look on the program, every investor that have expressed interest is on the program. We had about 25 applications, and we went through the profile of those ones that we think will fit our program, and they are all listed on the program. So nobody have been given 1 hectare of land. The other question was our reforestation policy. Is it going to work? Is money going to be given to the government to reforest, or are you expected to do the reforestation yourself? Let me first of all start by letting you know that we are setting up a forestry commission. That forestry commission will be, one of their primary responsibility will be to take care of our reforestation program and forest conservation and preservation program. I think we are going to do a little bit of both. We are going to give you an area where you will reforest, And also, we are going to ask that you commit some funds just in case the investor is not performing optimally as we would like to see. They would have to leave some funds with the commission for the commission to I would prefer the investors to do it on their own and government will monitor. But where the investor is not performing optimally, they would have to leave the resources with the commission, and the commission will now proceed to do what they need to do. This next question, if I understand him correctly, my understanding is that the gentleman was asking about how the infrastructural development within the oil palm estate was going to work. I don't know if that was his question. Asked that question about infrastructure. Okay. So in my presentation, I remember mentioning that the government is committed to developing the road infrastructure and granting access roads to whatever land you are located. Somebody asked a question, what if you're giving a parcel of land, you're giving 5,000 hectares, and inside the 5,000 hectares there's a thickly wooded parcel of land, say for instance about 500 hectares out of the 5,000 hectares. I promise you, I don't think with the kind of land you are going to get, you're going to see that. Because the land you're getting is mainly what we now call elephant grass. And in my language, there's another plant. I don't know the botanical name for it. We call it ogodogbo. So, awolowo. No, elephant grass is ogodogbo. Then the other one is awolowo. Yes. So, I've been to the forest myself. We did a lot of the ground truthing. They are no longer forests. So, but peradventure, you find a situation like that in your allocated lot, please let us know, because we like to have it and keep it as permanent forest within your plantation. Don't tear it down if you're one of such persons that is lucky to find that. But I can almost guarantee you that it doesn't exist in this part of the forest that we are going to, forest reserve that we are going to allocate. A gentleman asked a question, if you want to participate in this program, who do you call and how do you start? Now, you can call my office, but this program is going to take a life of its own. We are setting up an implementation office that will do the implementation. My office just gave birth to this program, after which I'm going to sign off, and the implementation team will take it from there and run with it. But for now, you can contact the ESOP group, which is under my office. Okay, so when that office is fully set up and when the implementation is fully set up and functional, we will now begin to direct you to that office. For now, everything is still within my office. Said, how would you, a gentleman asked the question, how would you ensure that the participant would adhere to the rule of engagement? I think that's my understanding. Well, like I said, there are two offices being set up. One already have, I believe, the bill has been passed, which is the Forestry Commission, to monitor the forestry aspect of it, while the other implementation of it. A few days ago, we just identified individual that will that will play in that space. So I'm sure by the time we go through the allocation process and acquiring the C of O process, these two offices would have been fully functional, and they can make sure that every participant in the program adheres to the rule of the game. Would the smallholder be limited to only planting, or can they also mill? I thought this question was very interesting, because in all the discussion and agitation that I have listened to in this room today, I'm wondering, what was going through my mind was, why do we like to do our things in little patches? Why can't we combine our resources and do something big and of scale? Because I don't see how you can get the same quality from a 1-ton mill and a 10-ton mill. It's not possible. It's not. So why designing this program, what we had in mind and the way the program is going to work, I'm not making reference to those of us that are already producing outside this program. This is for those of us that will use within the program. The way it's going to work is that we want to pair smallholders and larger oil palm estate developer. And it has its benefits. One, you get the technology that the oil palm estate holder is deploying get to rub off on the smallholders. The support, even in terms of land clearing, land preparation, harvesting or what have you, planting, agronomical practices and harvesting, the smallholder get to benefit from the large estate owner. And at the end of the day, they are producing the same quality of seeds. Our hope is that the large estate owner, if he has a mill, he will offtake the smallholders. I think I said that in my presentation earlier, that this program, one of the requirements is that the larger estate holder will offtake the smallholder that operates within that space. That way, we are giving the smallholders access to market. So I wouldn't encourage within, let's say, 10,000 space. And if we have smallholders with 10 hectares or 50 hectares, each of them we have cottage mills. It just would not work, in my opinion. Okay, so my thinking is the larger stakeholder that is operating within that space would offtake the smallholders and mill. But I'm even thinking, why have, now we have lots of 5,000 hectares. Let's say 10 investors playing in that space. I don't think I would even encourage 10 different mills, since it's in one, the land is in one contiguous space. It would be, if I were to do it my way, I would encourage one mill in one production center. Sakomba, we have one mill. and everybody in Sakomba will produce for that mill. And Runigbe, we have one mill. Everybody in Runigbe will produce for that mill, but using the same technology and agronomical practice. So that would be my approach. What are your solutions to the current and lasting land problems? Somebody asked a question about land ownership problem within the, you asked, okay. Well, just to answer your question, the land that we are going to be giving to the would-be investors in this program, they are government land. They are not community land. Okay? That's why the governor can stand up on the podium and tell you that he's going to give you the land free. So if they were community land, there's no way he could have said that, because you cannot give what you don't have. Okay? Somebody asked if there's any plan to protect the existing forests. Yes, what we did was to take stock of all our forest reserves, and they were classified into permanent forests that still exist within the Okomu area, degraded forests, and badly degraded forests. So the degraded forest they are the areas, the permanent forest we are going to keep as forest. Nobody's going to, that's going to be kept as forest and is going to be protected. The degraded forest is the area where we are going to assign you, if you get an allocation, that's the area where we are going to assign you a portion for you to reforest. Then the badly degraded forest is the area that we are going to allocate for you for this. Somebody asked if government is going to help smallholders reforest. Well, I would like to just say that this is business. Somebody said earlier that what they need as smallholders is grants and not loans. I'm sorry. It doesn't work like that. The world just doesn't work like that. It's business. This is not a developmental project. The reason we have failed largely when it comes to agriculture in this country is because we have always looked at agriculture as a developmental program. We have never seen agriculture as a business. But the truth is, agriculture is a business. And if you want to do business, and you want to throw your hat in the ring of any sector within the business sector, you have to be ready to play in that field. Nobody is going to hand you down anything. Not only are you expected to pay your loan back, you are expected to pay it back with interest. In this case, we've been told it's 9%, but we are still appealing to their conscience to see if there's any way they can lower it further. In my presentation, even though I said no more than 9%, but I had it at the back of my mind that I will appeal to their conscience, and maybe God will touch your heart and you drop it down to 6 or 5%. So, I don't know if there's any other question that I didn't answer, but you have a question? Okay. General Canvas. Well, the state will provide security to the best of their ability, responsibility of the state to protect lives and property, and we will do that. But it won't hurt to make sure you have additional arrangements. Other arrangements. Any other question? Oh, my brother here informed me earlier that they have organizations that have formed clusters of smallholders around the country, but is not sure why that of Edo State is non-active. So I would like, you said you have, who? Peter, why don't you come and see me? Let's discuss and see what we can do. Okay? All right. Any other question? Okay. How do we provide seedlings? Well, I don't think Edo State government is going to be involved in providing seedlings for the farmers. You know, we are the regulator, so, and it's your business. I mean, I don't want to give you seedlings and they go back and say, it's my fault. Like somebody alluded to. Oga Naifo, novice. In my presentation, this that I did say, I talked about NIFO and College of Agriculture because we realized that if we don't help you to improve on your practices, it will be difficult for this program to succeed. So it is in our interest. That was why when we went to the CBN, we discussed you extensively. In the last 2 years, before we got to this point, I personally took on the responsibility of restructuring the College of Agriculture to also support you in providing to us what we would need for this program to succeed. Okay? All right. So what was...
Okay. Coming back to my earlier question on the 5,000 hectare lot, you said that, okay, any investor will first of all give him 5,000 hectares.
In the first instance.
In the first instance. And then follow until after maybe 2 years when it starts yielding.
I didn't say 2 years. No. You got me wrong.
All right.
If I give you a 5,000 hectare, before I give you a 5,000 hectare, will we agree on a production plan? You and I will agree on a production plan. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Once you meet maybe 80% of your production plan, or 70% or 90%, I immediately grant you access to another 5,000 hectares. So if you will give me your production plan, what's comfortable for you? But it has to be within a specified time.
Yes.
From when we give you your CFO.
Where I'm coming from is, if you are giving me additional 5,000 hectares, I expect it to be contiguous to the existing one I've already been operating on. Because my fear or my concern is by the time I meet up that target of 5,000 hectares, maybe the next 5,000 hectares available is not contiguous. Somebody has been allocated. So that makes also my future plans very problematic.
When we give you, I didn't want to go into all these details. When we give you a 5,000 hectare, the one next to you, you have the first right of refusal. If you meet your production plan, you will get that. But if you miss your production plan, we can now allocate that to somebody else.
Okay, that's understandable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. A bigger round of applause for Prince Okoje.